no matter the location. From O-A-K-L-A to L-V, I'm a Raider.
All right, y'all, Raider Nation, what's going on? You guys are watching the Raiders Report. Coming up right now here on today's show, I'm going to get into my biggest winners and losers from Week 1, Raiders against the Baltimore Ravens. If I sound a little bit crappy, it's because I've been screaming my freaking head off the entire week, so don't go ahead and yell at me. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the winners, then we're going to go to the losers, and they're not really ranked in any particular order. I just figured, you know what, I'm going to talk about each guy when the hell I want to talk about him. The first winner here for the Raiders, Darius Philon, defensive tackle. Now, for the most part, I didn't really think the DTs played all that well, but I was very encouraged by what I saw from Philon, especially because he didn't play too much early on, and when it mattered the most at the end of the game, Philon continued to get his snaps. I believe he had 34 snaps, so half the amount of total snaps in this game for the defensive side of the football. But, I mean, ultimately, he had a solo tackle, 2 assisted tackles, a tackle for loss, the fumble recovery, which is the picture that you guys see on screen. But for a player that was signed this offseason, you didn't really know what you were going to get out of him. I'd probably say out of all the DTs, he was by far the most impressive to me. Yes, Jonathan Hankins had some more plays. Quentin Jefferson played more snaps. But Solomon Thomas, 15 snaps compared to Philon's 34. You can clearly see that he's been working hard, and I thought that he looked really good, so he was a winner to me. Next winner here is tight end Darren Waller. I mean, when you get 19 targets, I mean, come on. Who's the number one receiver on that team? We know it's Waller, but it's also his ability to totally change the game, right? I mean, 10 catches, 105 yards, that touchdown. There was a few times where I thought Carr might have overforced it a little bit. In his first 7 targets, he only had 1 catch. But then you're able to make that adjustment and then really get him going. Sure, Waller probably could have had another 2 grabs on balls that, I mean, he had one really bad drop to hit him right here in the chest, and he'd say the exact same thing. And then there was one down the middle of the field where he kind of like tried to one-hand it. And I think if he would have got one of his other hands up there, again, that's another big-time pickup. But if you got Darren Waller on your fantasy team, I mean, one of the questions that I'm going to ask y'all right now is, do you think that Darren Waller is going to lead all tight ends in receiving yards this year? 1 for yes, 0 for no. If you would have asked me this question before, I'd have been like, well, you got Travis Kelce there. It's obviously a very tough competitor. But you clearly saw Gruden was like, it's Darren Waller's option 1, he's option 2, and he might even be option 3. So 1 for yes, 0 for no. Is Darren Waller going to lead all tight ends in receiving yards this year? The next winner is the guy that I'm wearing right now. It's Derek Carr. If you think that this is the exact same thing that I wore yesterday during my watch party, you're also 100% right. I haven't changed in about, 48 hours at this point. But the reason why Carr is a winner to me is this. He started off bad. Let's just be honest. He was 3 of 11. He looked rusty. He looked like a quarterback that did not play in the preseason. Really curious to see if he plays in the preseason next year. But what's the biggest thing you need to be able to do? Make adjustments and come up clutch when it matters the most. So completion percentage, 60.7. He was like 34 for 50-something, I believe, total. He 34 for 56, 435 yards, a touchdown, a pick. But one of the things that I was impressed with by Carr, that interception really wasn't on him. I mean, that literally hit Willie Snead right in the hands. Sure, Snead was a little bit late getting his head around, and Carr threw an absolute missile. But what's the one thing that people rip on Carr for? Not winning and not being able to get it done when it matters the most. And I thought my man got it done. So what's your one-word reaction to Carr's performance versus the Baltimore Ravens? You only get one word. You only get one word. So don't cheat, right? One-word reaction to Carr's performance versus the Raiders. My one-word reaction is clutch. And the reason why it's clutch is, really think about it. The game was 17-10 in the fourth quarter. There was a time where that game was 17-10. The Raiders answered the bell, 17-17. What does Baltimore do? They go all the way down the field. They score another touchdown, 24-17. So now Carr, what does he have to do? Goes down, leads another touchdown drive, 24-24. The Ravens, they kick a field goal, 37 seconds left, no timeouts. Carr leads the team again down the field. Daniel Carlson, a 55-yard field goal, and then you win it in overtime with all the drama that happened. Derek Carr was clutch. There's no doubt about it. And he leads the NFL in passing yards. All right, let's go to the next winner here. It's Maxx Crosby. If you want to talk about somebody that totally like transformed this defense, it was him. There might not have been a better player in week 1 than Crosby. 6 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, and I believe he had 13 pressures as well. The 13 pressures led all players in the National Football League that first year. But what really impressed me with Max was you clearly saw that one of the things that he worked on the entire offseason was bettering that spin move. And actually, you also heard him talk about how Yannick Ngakoue was also helping out Crosby better that spin move. Now, according to PFF, Ngakoue was the fourth best defensive end, the entire fourth best defensive end out of them all. Crosby was ranked number 2. That guy looked insane. And, I mean, I could not be more proud of him. I could not have been more excited to see him. He was absolutely dominant. And teams right now, they're really worried. And some people were making fun of Ngakoue saying, hey, Crosby and I are the best duo in the league. The way that they played yesterday or Monday Night Football, guess what? I 100% agree that right now they were playing like the best defensive end duo in the entire National Football League. Let's not get that twisted. So go ahead, guys. Let me know down in those comments. Could Crosby and Ngakoue be the best pass rush duo in the NFL? Why for yes and for no? If they play the way they did last night against a mobile quarterback like Lamar Jackson, abso-freaking-lutely they could be. Abso-freaking-lutely that this could be. Why for yes and for no? Now, what I want you guys to do right now is go give some love to Savvy Lifestyle. For those of you that don't know, these guys have been around for a little while. They have awesome silver and black knives, essentially, 17-piece professional knife set. If you guys go to chatsports.com/knife, we're giving a 52% deal. So usually these knives are $99.99, but now it's $47.99, right? So I saw a lot of people at tailgates. I saw some people out there. These are great for tailgating. They're also great for in your kitchen as well. But I thought it was funny because the guy that owns this company, his name's Will. He's a diehard Raider fan. And I'm talking to him on the phone. I'm like, dude, that was one hell of a game. I feel like I'm 52 years old. And he was like, 52, crazy game. I'm going to give you guys 52% off. So Will's going to try to hook you all up. So go to chatsports.com/knife for code 52Raiders. I mean, it's a hell of a deal if you ask me. All right, let's now go ahead, guys, and start breaking down some other players here. One of the losers, I guess I can't even call him a loser. It's just more of an injury update. It's on Denzelle Good, simply because he's done for the 2021 season. So he left the game. He tried to come back in. For that reason alone, I'm going to give him a winner, and I'm not going to put him in my list of overall winners, but that guy's one tough dude. It sucks that he's going to be done for the entire season with a torn ACL. We'll see what ultimately happens here, whether it's going to be a Luminor or who else has to step up for him, but Denzelle Good out for the 2021 season. Let's go now to the last winner here on the board. It's Gus Bradley. Why? You give up 14 points really quickly in that first quarter, and I was like, oh, man, here we go with this Raiders defense, right? But what happened? Adjustments. And what also happened? You had your players that you went out in free agency step up. Yannick Ngakoue, Casey Hayward, KJ Wright. Those guys made plays when it mattered the most. So sure, you allowed 424 yards, right? Not great. Points, 27. But you had 3 sacks. If Lamar wouldn't be the most mobile quarterback in the league, you might have had 4 or 5. You also forced 2 turnovers, but the 2 turnovers that you forced were very, very clutch, especially that late punch-out by Carl Nassib that led to the touchdown that ultimately won the game. I was very impressed ultimately by this Raiders defense. So shout out to Gus Bradley for making some adjustments. So go down in the comments now, y'all, and let me know, who was the biggest winner from week 1? There was a lot of guys you could throw out there. If you're watching this live, go ahead and vote on our live poll, because right now I believe Maxx Crosby's got 63% of the votes, and I'm going to 100% agree with the audience. Derek was super clutch, and he deserves a lot of credit. Him and Waller both were the offensive MVPs, but the defensive MVP and the overall MVP, somebody who totally transformed this game, was Maxx Crosby. He was unbelievable. The 2 sacks, 13 quarterback pressures. He was the biggest winner from week 1. So anytime now you talk about the winners, you also have to go and talk about the losers. The first loser, the run offense and the run defense. Let's just put it simple. The interior offensive line played like shit. I mean, Andre James was bad. I mean, when I say bad, he was really bad. According to the PFF, he was the worst center out of all 32 in the entire league. John Simpson was okay. Illuminor, when he had to fill in for Denzelle Good, was here and there. Alex Leatherwood was very disappointing as well, but don't worry, we'll talk about him in a little bit. In terms of the interior defensive tackles, they just gave up way too many rushing yards. Now, sure, I understand that you're really trying to slow down Lamar Jackson, but the Baltimore Ravens ran the ball 34 times yesterday for 189 yards. That's 5.6 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns. You need to be able to limit the big plays, especially when you're going up against guys like Trey Cannon and Latavius Murray. The next loser here is going to be Henry Ruggs. And I'm not saying that he's like a big-time loser. Out of all these on the list, he's probably the smallest one. The only reason why I'm going to bring him up is because he had 5 targets, 2 catches, 46 yards. But I actually thought that Zay Jones was a little bit better than him. They started to favor Brian Edwards more down the stretch. Obviously Darren, but his first 3 targets, no catches. I'm going to also blame that on some rusty overall play. However, you drafted him number 12 overall. I wanted to see a little bit more targets. I wanted to see him get used more. I did like the way that they were using him all over the field. But when he was on the field, it kind of looked like that he was the 5th man. Like, Carr was looking at Renfrow, Carr was looking at Waller, Carr was looking at Bryan Edwards, and then it was kind of like, all right, do I check it down to Kenyon Drake, who had 5 catches, 59 yards, and then it was Ruggs. That's kind of a little bit concerning to me, and that's why I'm going to put him on here as a loser. So what do you guys think here? Who's going to be the leading wide receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders this season? I mean, if I'd say the overall receiver, it's Darren, right? I mean, that's clear as day. But I'm talking about just the wide receiver position. If you think it's going to be Henry Ruggs, I want you to type HR3. If you believe it's going to be Bryan Edwards, I want you to type BE. Hunter Renfrow, type HR. If you think it's going to be Zay Jones, type ZJ. If you think it's going to be somebody else, hey, man, throw them down in the comments. The next loser here is Alex Leatherwood. I was very disappointed. One of my biggest offseason winners was Leatherwood, and he played like shit this game. I mean, let's just be 100% honest. He gave up 2 sacks. He had 2 really bad penalties, but it was that one penalty. You're in overtime. It's 1st and goal at the 1, and it's a false start. He looked like a rookie way too often. Plus, he was getting roasted a few times on the edge by somebody like Justin. Now, Justin Houston is an elite player. I mean, he still is. He's old, but he's good. Leatherwood looked bad, and according, again, to PFF, the 2 worst offensive linemen out of all the offensive linemen last week, Alex Leatherwood, Andre James. Very, very concerning to me. The next loser here, it's got to be Damon Arnette, and you're like, wait a minute, Mitch, he didn't play. That's why Arnette is a loser on this one. I mean, he was drafted 19 overall in the 2020 draft, and believe me, I saw all the offseason reports, and I was like, hey, I want Arnette to succeed. Now, it could also be like, okay, Nate Hobbs was able to play a little bit better, which that's what I expected. But, I mean, think about it, y'all. He's only – this is his 2nd year in the league, a first-round pick who had 0 tackles, who had only 1 snap played. And what was also kind of interesting to me, when the Raiders went to nickel base. Now, I said all week, hey, they're going to play a lot of nickel base package. They're going to try to throw out some extra slot corners because that's what Gus Bradley has done against Lamar Jackson. So here's how the Raiders cornerback snaps week 1 went. Now, if you're like, wait a minute, Dalen Levitt's not a corner, you're right. But in nickel base packages, he did play some nickel corner. So Dalen Levitt had 8 snaps. Damon Arnette had 1. You guys, I mean, like that has to be a clear indication that the Raiders are seriously moving on from Damon. But Damon wasn't the only player that they drafted high that didn't play in this one, basically. The other one was Clelin Ferrell. Now, he was listed as a healthy scratch. Gruden had some clarification on Tuesday. It said, even though he didn't have an injury designation, he was battling a little bit of a back ailment. Now, we'll try to get down to the more nitty-gritty of what actually happened here. But if Clelin Ferrell, who you drafted number 4 overall in the 2019 draft, if you're already putting him as a healthy scratch, that is a major concern. I liked what I saw out of Clee last season. I thought he was actually one of the better defensive ends, but that's a major concern. So we went through the winners. We went through the losers. Who's the biggest loser from week 1? I want you guys to go down in the comment section right now and let me know.